All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Welcome everybody. Mic check, testing, 1 2 1 2. Make sure you guys got me today. Welcome everybody. Welcome to an AMA. We haven't done one of these in a hot minute with the American Crypto Academy, but now is certainly the time to get rolling with some exciting topics. So we're glad to get this series back rolling again. And hello to all of our past viewers, and hello to all of our new viewers. Right now, there's a lot of chat right now, and about the digital asset ecosystem as a whole, in general. There's obviously a lot in the macro scene, and in the financial world, and in tech. There's also a lot of talk on like meme and culture stuff. But one of the big things that we all know is like one of those core like blockchain use cases, or the folks that have been in digital assets for a while, is healthcare, right? Access to healthcare, and your overall health and wellness. And everybody nods north and south. They're like, oh yeah, blockchain and healthcare, definitely. But like at that point in time, then what? Right? There's healthcare is its own monster, and like how we treat and how we care, and how we provide people access to care. It's a whole world in and of itself. And to be able to navigate that, or to be able to take blockchain and create new ecosystems, I find to be really impactful. And I want to be able to highlight a few good areas that I think are important. And I don't think there's anyone better to sort of help us navigate this than Pradeep from Solve.Care. And we've been a big fan of Solve.Care at American Crypto Academy for a long time, and we're super thrilled to have you on for an AMA, because I got a bunch of questions for you. But before we get into that, I know our audience probably does too. But Pradeep, tell me just at a real high level, right? Solve.Care, if you guys want to go find it, by the way, do follow them on X. All right, let's get that out of the way now. You want to follow them on X. You want to go to Solve.Care. What is a digital health network? All right, and what is Solve.Care? Solve.Care as the blockchain platform for that. So describe for me, right, what's your vision here with Solve.Care, and then I want to get a little bit into your background and why you're tackling this.
First, thank you for having me, Jahon, and thank you to the American Crypto Academy team. Excited to be here, and then jump right into your question. Our vision for healthcare is self-custody of healthcare. And that encompasses a whole host of capabilities that address a whole host of issues with healthcare. But at a very fundamental, basic level, is to enable individuals to have custody of their data, to be able to do zero-knowledge transactions, to be able to control who sees their identity, to be able to make payments to who they want across boundaries, and most importantly, to have choice of care. So self-custody of healthcare is very powerful principle in that we put the patient at the center of healthcare decision-making. And it's also very complex to achieve because, as we all know, healthcare is complex, and it's also not very patient-centric. So in a simple sentence, our mission is to bring self-custody to healthcare.
So let me ask you this. So like, this is not, for folks that are in the audience or just learning blockchain, you have to understand this is not a piece of middleware, right?
Correct.
What you're describing here is a complete realignment of data control in healthcare.
And it's actually a complete realignment of healthcare model as it exists.
100%.
Right. And it is a journey that must be taken for the good of our children and our grandkids. It's a journey that people don't know where to begin. How do I begin to fix healthcare? And I've spent 30 plus years in healthcare, and I've looked at it from all angles. And there's a lot to like about the current healthcare system, but there's more to dislike.
Absolutely. Pradeep, before we get into a bit further, let's talk about that 30. Tell me a little bit about so the audience, I know, but tell the audience a bit about your background and where you're coming from. And then, because I think it really shapes your vision for Solve.Care significantly.
It did. Solve.Care has been basically a lifelong journey for me. Even though the Solve.Care as an entity exists for the last 7 years, it has been in the making for the last 35 years. So I got into healthcare right out of college. I was fortunate enough to be brought into Blue Cross Blue Shield back then into the basement and to observe mailroom operations. That was the beginning of my introduction to healthcare. I was barely 21 and I was full of ideas. And the CEO of the company said, go to the mailroom, see what you can figure out. And I started there. And we used to show up at 4:30 a.m. in very cold weather to watch how the mail is opened, and then follow the mail through the organization to see where it goes and what do we do with it. And then you learn the business. And slowly but surely, I understood the business to the point where 20 years later, I was in the boardroom of the same company as a CIO. So that journey of basement to boardroom taught me everything about healthcare that most people don't want to learn. Along the way, also had great fortune of building advanced technology platforms, solving really complex public health issues. So when President Bush launched the Health Savings Act, the Medicare, Medicaid Management Act, as part of that, health savings accounts were introduced to the United States, to the population. I was a big part of implementing that. The early innovators around how HSAs would be implemented and how would they work. When President Obama launched ACA, Accountable Care Act, which is known as Obamacare, I had the good fortune of implementing that in multiple states and learning the politics and the policy issues around healthcare as well. Of course, I'm a parent and I have kids, and I have one of my children needs a lot of healthcare needs, more than usual kids do. So I'm also a parent in need. And I was CIO of Blue Cross, so I learned how insurance works. And not only that, employment benefits, employee benefits, public health in China and India. These are all things I got exposed to by virtue of being good as a solution designer, as a good IT problem solver. So fundamentally, I'm a problem solver. I love technology to solve human issues, but I truly believe that IT serves humanity. Humanity doesn't serve IT, so I always look for human impact. And that wasn't really something that I learned on my own. I stand on the shoulder of giants. They taught me that anything you do, first you got to measure the humanity of it. And in healthcare, more than any other industry, that's really important. What you're going to do is you're going to really impact people positively or negatively, not just the patient, but also the doctor, the pharmacist, the lab technician, the hospital workers, everybody. So I learned to understand the human element of technology, and that has stood me well. But in a nutshell, over the last 33 years now, about 1991 to today, 34 years or 33 years, I've been exposed to healthcare more deeply than most people, including those who typically spend their lifetime in healthcare, because I moved around a lot. I got exposed to things that average technician doesn't get exposed to. And from that learning came a fundamental epiphany that it's not that healthcare is run by a bunch of evil people. Maybe there are some bad intentions, but majority of the system is just flawed systemically. It's just fundamentally flawed, not because somebody designed it that way, but because it evolved to be non-patient centric, because it became so unfriendly. And that thinking is baked into healthcare. Patient is not a human being. They're a beneficiary. They're a recipient of care. They are a risk factor. They are a non-payment entity. People are hardly thought of as human beings. They're thought of as what their responsibilities or what their role in the system is, and which really dehumanizes people a lot. And along the way, you strip away all their power. The kind of patient is kind of standing outside the window, looking in, trying to figure out how healthcare decisions are being made, supposedly for their benefit, but they're not even in the room. So that's how healthcare has evolved. And along with that, as IT systems have evolved the same way. Healthcare IT is all about exclusion and walls. Healthcare IT is all about silos, right? And there are three big silos in healthcare that make it very difficult. One is a data silo that you and I can understand. Our data is locked up in somebody else's system, and you got to beg to get it. That's the easiest of the two silos. But there are two other insidious silos that nobody really knows why they're there, but they are there and they really frustrate everyone. And that is care silos, where you have to be inside a club to get care. You got to be in this network, you got to be in that network, you got to be in PPO, you got to be in HMO, and you can't go outside the club. It feels more like a golf membership than healthcare, right? You can't play outside my golf club. This is where you get to play this rounds, and that's not how healthcare should be, these care silos. And then there is the payment silo, which is who gets to decide how much who gets paid. And that is not the patient. So you have neither data ownership as a patient, nor do you have choice of care, nor do you have control over who gets paid how much. So guess what? You are kind of this outsider peeking in. And IT
Sounds like a federal bureaucracy too.
and bureaucracy, fraud, waste, abuse, inefficiency, greed, all that is there. But they are nothing compared to the fact the system is siloed up.
Right.
So
Right.
I understood that if I'm going to leave a legacy, make an impact, and actually change healthcare for the better, we will have to do the impossible, which is to challenge these silos with an open fabric where people have equal rights and opportunities. And yes, technology like Web3 and blockchain are absolutely essential to do that. But first, you got to have the guts to say, we're going to fix this. That's why Solve.Care was created.
Yeah, that's bold, Pradeep. Like that's awesome. And I hope folks that folks listening, we're taking that all in. That's as bold of a challenge to an existing market structure as I have heard, and I am here for it, 100%. One of the things I like is your point of view on the whole thing. Yours was never, it seemed, your experiences were never top down, right? Top down, learn from the top, and even like in the management cell, you saw how the whole thing worked from the bottom up, saw how it was all built and navigated in the piping, right? Saw all the silos, and yeah, why, at this point in time with the technologies that we have available to us, and even in terms of the overall right to self-sovereignty and data sovereignty, even beyond just healthcare. This is an important step to take, and I think that your approach is awesome. So tell me about how it's been. Tell me about over the last few months, and tell us about sort of how Solve.Care has evolved since you guys have launched.
So we have evolved a lot, but we have not strayed from our mission. So I think I'm very proud of the team and the company in that we have stayed very true to our mission. So let's talk about, what is our mission? Our mission is to have self-custody of healthcare. But that means that that's just a fundamental premise of the system, of our chain, and of our protocol, and of our fabric, and our platform. But what are we really trying to achieve? What we are trying to do is to allow for individual use cases to be implemented in a way that change the model, because you can't change everything at once. So wherever there's an opportunity, we should be able to stand up at different environments. So I'll give you a very simple example to illustrate the point. So as you know, you may have heard of Mark Cuban launched this great project called Pillbox, I believe is the name of it. And the basic idea is that I should be able to buy prescription at wholesale prices. And I shouldn't have to pay retail price at CVS or Walgreens or Eckerd's or whatever. And I should be able to buy wholesale and have the drugs delivered to my door. Simple enough idea, very difficult to implement because of various rules and regulations. So our view is that we should allow that use case belongs on Care platform, on our system, because not only does it allow for prescription to be filled, we also protect the patient from having to reveal excessive amount of their identity and to have to share the name of their dog or all their medical records, and to be able to do this transaction in a relatively zero knowledge way. But as long as my prescription is valid from a real doctor, I should be able to get it filled from anybody I want. So choice, freedom to pay using digital assets, and to be able to have it shipped where I want. So essentially to bring a greater level of patient control over that transaction would make it so much easier for people to get this filled, this pharmacy transaction. It's a small problem, but it's not. It's $500 billion a year problem for Americans every single year. That's minimum how much we spend on prescription drugs is around 500 billion, sometimes more. And if we are paying 10,000% markup on it, that means for a $5 billion product, we're paying 500 billion. That's not cool. And it's really, there's a lot of reasons why you can't have freedom of pharmacy, who the doctor is hooked up with, how you feel about it, going to buy a brand versus generic. There's stigma attached to it. There's a lot of psychological and operational pressures on a patient to follow the system. But if you remove those pressures, it works. So that's just an example. So we think that we can do a better job on our platform with patient-centered, patient-protected, patient rights and patient identity and anonymity and zero-knowledge transactions than even a well-meaning system like Pillbox can do, because they still ask you for too much information about you for you to be comfortable, right?
How have you how's the reception been from insurance providers?
So insurance providers actually are happy with it in general because they are looking at overall spend. As an insurer, I want to have my patients spend less. I never ever benefit from you spending $100 on antibiotics when you could buy them for $4 or for $1. So from an insurance provider, it's actually either a non-issue or it's a great solution. Where it becomes difficult is the care delivery silo doesn't like it, because the care delivery silo, which is made up of the IDNs, the delivery networks, and the hooked up pharmacies with them, they don't like that. The PBMs, the middlemen, is really the ones who get hurt. So when you asked me, earlier, what are we doing? I think another way to look at it is healthcare is full of intermediaries. And man, those intermediaries are rich. And they are rich because they take a big piece of whatever I need to do and you need to do. And they're in the middle of every transaction. And there are more middle intermediaries in healthcare than any other industry. And they have very strange names: PBM, HMO, MCO, MCP, IDN. You don't even know that they exist, but they exist. And they take between 25% to 40% of each transaction. Now, they originally started with the idea that as an intermediary, I'll facilitate care. And many started with the right intention. But the first phase is facilitate, the next phase is aggregate data, third phase is control, and the fourth phase is exploit. So we are well in the exploitation phase now. All these intermediaries are taking $1 trillion just in the US to supposedly facilitate. And I would submit to you that a well-designed blockchain fabric gets rid of all of them. It's about $1 trillion a year that goes to people who facilitate what? Why do I need a facilitator to make an appointment or get a referral? Why do I need a facilitator to buy drugs from the pharmaceutical company? But therein lies all these middlemen who take enormous amount of healthcare. And it's not just a US problem, it's also a global problem. And we have estimated, and so does many studies show, that intermediaries take $1 trillion a year line to as their revenue out of 4 trillion in the US, and another trillion similarly spent in other parts of the world. So this is a gigantic issue. And if you think about blockchain is all about disintermediation, right? To remove the intermediaries. So why aren't we disintermediating these guys in the middle who are just lining and putting friction in the system? But you can't do that in one day.
Right. So like, probably let me get, just so I can conceptualize it, I think hopefully correctly. You're creating sort of a decentralized mesh HMO on chain, right? Or what people think an HMO is sort of like you're creating that health network on chain where it's the more like, or am I explaining that incorrectly?
I would say that we're creating a decentralized mesh where every patient has their identity, their destination, their web ID, Web3 ID, and that allows them to interact with anybody else on the mesh to do what they need to do without having somebody else facilitate that transaction.
Okay, gotcha. Right. You're creating this amazing web right here, and I mean the frustrations that I mean I can hear it in your explanation, and there are similar frustrations that everybody has, faced as a beneficiary of care, right, or whatever we're called in that particular email or data or insurance request. But everybody has felt that, and for folks that have worked on the tech side of things that are looking to solve problems, these are their these all ring true. I do want to I want to also let the folks know in the comments too. If you guys get questions, please drop them in. We'd love to chat. I think we got one coming up here, Pradeep, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We got tokenized, and this comes from the audience that's right there on the screen. Tokenized data and soul-bound tokens are helpful with this kind of project. Is Solve.Care running on its own chain? So can you describe, I guess, the chain and the stack to a degree?
Yeah, actually, I have a little diagram that I put together to show, because pictures tell 1,000 words.
Totally.
So I'm going to ask a team to show. I'm going to show 2 quick slides. So first is, what do we do? So we are basically if you want to think of it very simply, we are a Web3 version of a complete application stack like Oracle or Salesforce, but we are a Web3 enabled version that does things very differently, but does the same things. And in healthcare, these are the issues that Web2 cannot solve. So first is all parties have a reason to distrust each other because they're all trying to profit off each other and at the expense of the patient. So there's a lack of trust, and it's built into the system, into the model. There is data privacy and security doesn't exist. The moment you walk into a doctor's office, you hand over your data control immediately. Remember those forms you fill out saying you have unfettered right to use my data as you like. Just please see my kid. And that's the trade-off. It's basically a blackmail saying you want my expertise, you're going to give up control over your data immediately. You have no consent and ability to delegate anything. Everything is essentially in the hands of a centralized authority, which are not necessarily driven first by you. They're driven first by profit. Then you have major issues with compliance and risk management, which occur when you have the rules and regulations being applied after the fact, right? My rights are enforced after I file a lawsuit, not during the process. Cost and adoption issues. There is no zero knowledge relationship in healthcare, right? Have you ever tried to get any healthcare and tell them, I don't want to tell you everything about myself? You are required to expose necessary and unnecessary information to get any kind of care. So zero knowledge doesn't exist. Transaction security is in the hands of the system. And we all know every single day people get hacked. You heard about the recent massive hack of Change Health, under Optum. And that's a grandmother of all hacks, right? You've lost hundreds of millions of patient identities and data. I mean, that's earth-shattering if it ever can be. Immutability and auditability doesn't exist because systems are very centrally managed and so on. Now, these are the problems Web2 solution platforms have. What we did is we said there is a Web3 vision of healthcare where every user has their own wallet. That wallet is their identity and their destination. And that wallet also is where they have custody and control. The wallet can interact with cards which arrive in my wallet from known entities or unknown entities for that matter. And the card interacts with my data. I never send my data somewhere. The logic arrives in my wallet and it interacts with me. So if you as a doctor want to check if I'm at risk of a heart attack, you will send me a card to my wallet, which will look at all my data in my wallet and go, whoa, he's got serious BMI and A1C issues. So based on his medical records in his wallet, you will get notified that Pradeep is at risk. But I don't need to send all my records to you to figure out whether I'm at risk. Your card can come and talk to my data in my wallet, right? So let's not move data around, let's move logic around. Then the third thing is that there is total custody in the form that my wallet is connected to my care node, which is different than a blockchain node. It's a Web3 container where I have all the storage and compute power I need to be independent of you. So my destination, my address, my control, my custody, my identity are in my control as a wallet holder. Now that means I could be a patient or a doctor or a pharmacist or a family member. I have my wallet and I control my universe through it. And then all of this conversation that I'm having with other parties can be governed by the protocol, which defines the rules of engagement, which is compliance. So am I supposed to and able to, as an American citizen, consult with a Swedish doctor? Well, the protocol sets those rules and says, yes, you can, or no, you can't, but that's illegal. So Care protocol allows compliance at the wallet level. And then all of this is bound into a care network, which can be defined by the protocol. So you can have a network for US and a network for Africa and a network for China, or you can have a network for the city of San Francisco, or you can have a network for all the members of a insurance company, or you can have a network for every person with diabetes in the world. You can define the network however you want. So you can be you can be a human being. You can be a CIO of an insurance company. You can be innovator in Vietnam. Doesn't matter. If you have an idea to design a healthcare delivery model, like a doctor, you can design your own network, and boom, every Care.Wallet can see that network the moment it's published. So that way we can decentralize healthcare. But the essential property of this idea, of this platform, is every wallet is unique, it's sovereign. And let's look at this basic applications then. I don't need to go anywhere. The doctors can send me their bills. The pharmacies can send me their prescription prices. I can request a referral from anybody. I can go talk to any doctor. I can interact with whoever I want because I'm a human being, not some patient in the system of a hospital. So that restoring the human element of healthcare by giving everybody a Care.Wallet is our vision and mission. And that wallet being immutable and a Web3 container in your control, we meet every regulatory requirement in the world, whether it's HIPAA or GDPR or any other country's rules. Well, guess what? Since I never let you aggregate my data, we are compliant. Most of the regulation in the world exists when I first give up control over my data, then I hope the regulator will protect my data, right? In our case, I never give up control over my data. So fundamentally, what Care Platform does is gives you the primitives to reimagine healthcare from any angle, insurance angle, hospital angle, pharmacy angle, but it does not let you control the patient. It forces you to treat the patient as a sovereign human being with their identity and data in their control. And if you don't like that model, you're not going to like Care Platform. But if you want to move towards a human-centric, patient-centric care, whether it's for a city or a hospital or for a small group of doctors in Africa, or just a bunch of patients getting together and saying, you know what, we're tired of this nonsense. We're going to do something different. You can build a network to solve that problem. So it's a one platform for all, but not one solution for all. Everybody has their own ability to redefine healthcare by designing a new network. That's the basic principle. Then what I want to show you is a kind of networks we have built, and I'll show you a few other cool things later. But here are some of the networks that people have built on our platform. So one of the Honorable Care organizations launched a provider payment network where the doctor has to get you well to get paid. So it's simple concept. Unless the patient feels better, you don't get paid extra money. So provider rewards is based around payment for performance of the physician, not just visits. Don't pay for seeing the patient, you get paid for making the patient well. The old model of healthcare that used to exist before we messed it up. Diabetes care coordination was built by Boehringer Ingelheim to coordinate care for people who are at risk of death because they are very ill, they have too much uncontrolled diabetes and heart condition, and they're highly likely to die in the next 5 years. So what can we do to prevent that kind of a terrible outcome? Non-emergency medical transportation was built for a state to allow people without vehicles to get to their appointments for dialysis or treatment or hospital visits or whatever. And right now, government spends $40 billion a year on vouchers, which often are sold in the black market. So this network was built to address that fraud, waste, and abuse. Remote workforce management was built at the beginning of COVID to help people who suddenly got disengaged from their employees and from their colleagues and how to report issues in a zero-knowledge manner. Care.Trials is our most pride and joy. It's a AI-powered, zero-knowledge, anonymous patient engagement into clinical research, where I can participate in clinical research that I previously wouldn't even think about joining because they want too much of my information to do so. And now we're building on the CareRx, which is the one I mentioned about, better alternative to Pillbox and to Amazon's drug delivery, and so on. But these are just the networks that the big boys have built, right? The big companies have used our platform to build. There are many small, innovators, hospitals, doctors, individual practitioners, chiropractors, dentists, people in a community saying enough is enough, and they can build their own networks to solve issues. The point is, no matter what network you build, it's going to show up in the wallet. And then you can allow people to have access to it. So again, to your question, what are we building? We're building this global fabric where every individual can stake their name, their identity-less address, their wallet ID, and through that, they can transact with every other wallet using the Care.Cards and using the Care.Wallet. right? And one last thing I want to show you very quickly is we invented this Web3 primitive called Care.Card. And this is what is our version of dApps. So, people think of dApps as a smart contract, and some very light logic and, some data, but we built this multifaceted, highly graphically rich dApp, which can move between wallets. So it can execute smart contracts, it can execute Python scripts, it can move as a whole between wallets, it can interact with local data in the wallet, it can interact with the data in the chain, which is on the ledger, and it can be rotated to see different sides of the card, which you may need as in certain scenarios. So it basically is a very rich UI UX built-in dApp that you can just configure by defining its behavior. And when you define the behavior of the dApp in this protocol, all these cards can start to talk to each other. They can be linked, they can be stacked, they can be hooked to each other. So you can create this incredibly powerful network dApp, which no chains can't do that, right? Chains can record the event, but they can't make the event look like this. So that primitive that we created called Care.Cards is, and it's a patent pending thing, but we will look to open source it in the coming months. But the idea is, let's not just talk about chains. Let's talk about humans. How do we make blockchain human? And the way you do that is you create something grandma can touch and feel. And it's not MetaMask. It's not hooking up your wallet to another wallet and doing some staking and yielding and farming. Guys, that's all important. But it's not going to bring the 6.5 billion people who don't know crypto to blockchain. So we basically built a new primitive, a actual UI UX centric dApp that you can use in the real world. Yes, it's blockchain enabled. Yes, it's immutable. Yes, it's read from the chain and it's writes to the chain. But let's make it human. So, my original mission, technology for humans, not the other way around. And that's kind of where the Care.Wallet and Care.Cards are. They work together to achieve that human usability.
No, I think, I mean, the perspective on which the product development and the process flow and the architecture is awesome. Awesome. Because here, one of the things that, blockchain enabled technologies, gets a lot of gripe for is the usability, right? Okay. Interface usability, like that's great that technology exists. How does this help me? Right. Is it easy to use? And this is obviously a huge, impactful, and bold initiative. And I think taking a really thoughtful approach to all of it. I do want to talk a little bit about the wallet itself. Is there an associated token that goes along with it, or is it just blockchain powered wallet? How does that work from a like a token perspective?
Yeah, so Solve is the token. It is a utility token in the wallet, and you need it when you are transacting. When you're sending a card to another wallet, you need to pay gas fee, and that's what Solve token is used for in one utility. Other utility is that if you want to pay the doctor and the doctor sends you a bill card, a care card called bill, it appears in my wallet, it interacts with my insurance card and goes, yep, Pradeep, your copay is $20. You got to pay the doc 20, the insurance company will pay the 80. All that can be, right? The card arrives in my wallet and it knows, whoa, Pradeep has insurance. So this insurance is going to pay $80 and Pradeep's going to have to pay 20. And then you can immediately respond with saying, okay, I'll pay my share right now. So you can pay with Solve tokens. In fact, that's the only way you can pay the doc is from your wallet to his wallet in real time. So those kind of transactional capabilities done through the token is the send the card fee, receive the, receiver doesn't pay the fee, but the sender does. And then you have the payment. And then you also have third-party payments, delegated payments. So let's say you're buying a prescription. You're filling a prescription from an online pharmacy. But that pharmacy is, let's say, operating in Texas. So they're going to want to get paid the money before they ship your prescription. So then that payment from you to the pharmacy is in the form of a third-party payment. That can also be and is required to be done in Solve token. So Solve is the gas for the wallet-to-wallet exchange. It's the payment if you want to make a wallet-to-wallet payment, and it's also fee to non-wallets, which are sitting outside the care network and supplying services like Uber. If you
Right.
want to book a ride to the Care.Wallet, you would pay for the ride using tokens, but tokens would be sent to Uber outside the network in the form of a stable coin or something like that.
All right.
So that's how it works.
I'm tracking. Let me ask you a question. I don't want to like spill any beans for you, but is it down the road maybe a thought of allowing people to or users or patients to choose if they want to sell particular parts of their data? Maybe there's a reverse market for that where insurance providers are looking for data, right? You want to be able to, you know, be able to choose which data you can share and get financially compensated for sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just one more care network.
Right.
And a data marketplace for patients, for research, or for other analytics is a very logical use case. And Care.Trials, which is our clinical trials network, certainly uses or allows patients to share data, and it allows the recipient to pay the patient for that data.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly allowed. But that's just a network design, right? You might build a more open network to say we just build a marketplace where we're going to publish data and let buyers buy it, like an NFT marketplace, but for data.
Yeah.
Yes, you could do that. But let me show you something really quick. If I can bring back a very cool concept that we built, which people love, those who use it. Could you bring up the slide deck again? So here we built a network in collaboration with top 3 health universities in the United States. We basically built a Tinder for trials. And the idea is that you can browse and swipe trials in your wallet.
Like clinical trials?
Yes, for clinical.
That's awesome.
Right? And
that's awesome.
If I want to, for example, know about cancer research anywhere in the world, then I can go into the wallet, connect to Care.Trials, not tell you anything about my name or my phone number or my email, zero knowledge. But I can say, you know what, I'm 52 years old and I have an interest, I'm male, and I have an interest in cancer trials that might accept me. So you can browse those trials which match you. And if you have question about the trial, you can ask Kara, which is an AI model that's trained on trials only and understands your rights as a patient. So she'll answer your questions about the trial, which you can say, I like it. And you can like the trial and tell the other party that you might have an interest, but they don't know who you are at any point. They can send you more information about the trial principal investigator or the pharma or the hospital. And you can look at that and go, let me see if I actually qualify for this trial, and I can send my records, and they'll get de-identified and they'll be looked at by the trial admin, and they'll say, you actually qualify. Do you want to participate? And then you say, you know what? I do. Now I'm going to tell you who I am. This is totally opposite to how trials work today. The way trials work today is that some hospital takes all their patient data and sells it to some mining company and says, mine the data and find every eligible patient who has potential risk of cancer, then start spamming the hell out of them. Start emailing them, start calling them, start texting them. That patient may have passed away. They're going to start bombarding that patient's family with this unsolicited messages. And along with that will be a bunch of scammers who are also trying to steal your identity in reality. So how do you know the difference? You don't. And 99.99% of this effort fails because who wants to be solicited on a phone to join a cancer trial that may actually kill you? I mean, come on, guys. How does this model work? It doesn't. But yet, pharma spends $40 billion a year funding this kind of madness. $40 billion a year is spent on soliciting patients that don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Oh, this is like 1,000 times better. Like, is this live? Can I start swiping for trials?
So it's live in Philippines. It's going live in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and then it'll start moving, westwards. But we are rushing to open it in the US because there's such a demand. But it was launched in the APAC region about 4 months ago. And we have tens of thousands of patients, and we're expecting to onboard millions more through partnerships. But the point is that as we test it out in the first 20 countries, then we move it to the next 180 countries. But this is just one network. Now, you could build a completely different network on the platform. Platform will let you do it, right? As long as you recognize that the patient is a Web3 identity, and you can't just grab their data. You have to ask for it. You have to seek their consent, and the data will, when they're given to you, you can forward it on, but the data will re-encrypt. The moment you try to take my card and send it to somebody else, it will re-encrypt. It'll be like, whoa, 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 you can't send that card over. So the chain of custody is always in my hands. Even though I gave you my data, you don't have unfettered right to do what you want to do with it. You have to respect the fact that I still control I still have the keys to that data at all times. So those kind of power doesn't exist in any Web 2 platform. But the point of this is, let your imagination run wild. Tinder for Trials came from actually one of the senior doctors at George Washington University in DC. He was like, let's do this, man. We got to do this. This whole model is broken. I have a better idea. And out came Care.Trials from that. And it only took 3 months to build this whole network, which is now live in a dozen countries. You can do things like that. You can change the world. You can build a data mart. You can build an online prescription store. You can build here's another one for those who are interested, wheelchairs, crutches, and other aids that people need. The markup on that is 10 to 20,000%, right? From wholesale to retail, there is middlemen taking 100 times. And what costs $20 gets sold for $2,000 to the patient. You want to build a network that supplies those kind of equipment, you could do that. So we're just trying to disrupt the entire healthcare model by empowering people who are tired of the current healthcare system to disrupt it. The last thing is, if you want to go outside healthcare, you can do that too. The cards don't tell you can only build a healthcare solution, right? You could build a solution for supply chain. You can build a network for transportation. So we are not limiting you to healthcare. We are just focused on healthcare, but you can do anything you want, basically.
Pradeep, that's awesome. I have to ask, what's on tap? Because everybody I know who's watching or hopefully is been following now on the Twitter and going down the rabbit hole on Solve.Care. So what's on tap? What's next? What do we have to look forward to this spring and summer?
A lot is coming, but I think the most important thing is that we have already published the protocol. We'll publish a lot more GitHub documentation for you to build your own networks. There's a lot of power in this protocol that you can use. So that's one thing. So our focus this year is about empowering you to do more yourself. So I think we need to work with entities like American Crypto Academy to get the word out that this isn't just about writing a smart contract to stake or yield. You're talking about a complete decentralized network application stack that lets you deliver grandma-friendly experience to a wallet that is unthinkable just at the chain level.
No, definitely. One of the things I was thinking of is, the way in which Solve.Care is oriented is a fantastic way for us to orient our educational programs on blockchain and healthcare and impact. So we'd love to collab on a few different areas, because the approach on the network approach and on allowing folks to develop their own networks, and the way that you built sort of the solution stack and having the patient or be the center point of all of that, I think it's really important to give people that type of perspective, right? Because we'd love to help sort of explain that in general, because I think the way you talked about the overall issues that are the issues, right, in healthcare and the way that it's developed. So I think the approach that you guys are taking is awesome, and I'd love to be able to help tell that story a little bit further and educate folks on, because I think it opens up the doors for folks to start thinking too, like, this is what blockchain can do. Hold on, it's not just about like this token, that token, things like that, where they're thinking in a finance sort of construct. Now they're thinking in like, how can we have networks that are impactful construct? And that's a very different mindset to have. And I think it's a really important one too, because as the way that you defined it and described it, you can see the value transfer in there, and you can see where the value points are. And then it starts to make sense for people in a little bit of a different way. Right.
I agree with you. I will quote the irreplaceable Steve Jobs. I think there was an interview, or he was having a meeting with his team, and he said, it's not about the tech; it's about starting with the user experience first. So learning from that statement, when we started Solve.Care in 2017, my team was like, let's build our own chain. And I was like, no, we need to let the chains evolve. Chains will get better, faster, cheaper. They'll fork. They will become roll-ups, and all that is happening. And the tech that our blockchain industry and our friends are doing is amazing. I mean, I'm so impressed by the evolution and the revolution in the chain world. And I was just recently at ETH Denver, and then my team was at Hong Kong Web3 and ETH Seoul. And the tech at the chain level is growing. Transactions per second, cost of the gas, zero knowledge rollups. That's all great. But that's just foundational tech. Where is the user experience? So you got to start from user experience down. So we built the platform with the idea that chains will become swappable at some point. They'll grow to support the platform, but let's build the user experience down. So first came the wallet, then came the cards, then came the protocol, then came the networks, then came the token, so that we can actually build a really meaningful decentralized use case. And then, of course, there is a chain. And we are, so many of you will be surprised to hear, we are still on the old Ethereum from 2017, right? The Ethereum classic, the permissioned Ethereum, because
You're on proof of work Ethereum?
yes, we are the original Ethereum adoptees, right? I mean,
That's great.
we were the earliest Ethereum projects that came on and said, let's use blockchain for what it's supposed to do. But now chains have evolved, and we need to get off that chain and move to a different one. And we are talking to all the great stacks out there, be it Cosmos or Polkadot, Polygon. We are bridging to Polygon because that could be a potential chain for us. But look, in the end, what value is the chain if you don't have all the rest? So last 7 years, we built all the rest that matters, the user experience down. I'm no Steve Jobs, but I always ask the question, what would he have done? Would he have started with the chain or with the wallet? And I bet that he would start with the wallet. So we started with the wallet down. And now we're at a point where we need to switch the chain, and we will. So one thing we will do this year is we will move off this permissioned Ethereum to a permissionless mainnet, which allows us to have everybody, track and scan and look at what's happening. So that's been the downside of building top down, experience down, is that we are not as open and we are not seen on any open chain yet. But when we do this year, then it's two sides meshing to that perfect storm. So I think this year is the year of the perfect storm in terms of bringing utility to blockchain. And the last thing I'll say you can look forward to is millions of real users, because our distribution channels aren't concerned about the chain. They worry about the utility. And we have tons of utility. So as we move that utility onto the permissionless chain, we can stop answering this question, what good is blockchain for? When is it going to serve me, the consumer? Here you go. You want utility? Here's loads of it.
I think the fundamental distinction was your approach right from the start to orient it the way you did. And I think that's what draws us to the project. And I think, and I hope that point of view was helpful for folks listening to give a different orientation and a less into the weeds and a more, let's look at the big picture of how this is all constructed, that type of perspective. And I hope that, folks listening will check Solve.Care out. We definitely, we definitely want to be working with Solve.Care as well to get some more of the educational materials out and to be able to get folks to get this type of vision of what healthcare looks like in a more patient-centric, decentralized world. So we were super thrilled. So besides Solve.Care online, where else can we find you guys, Pradeep? You guys are on X. We want to make sure we get that up there. Awesome. Solve_Care X. All right, make sure everyone gives them a follow. I can't wait to do some follow-up stuff, right? We can probably have like a fireside chat and talk about like some real high-level stuff. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this awesome conversation today.
Absolutely. And if I may say this, when I started in blockchain or started with Care platform, I had a vision of what we want to achieve, and blockchain seemed to be the right tech to do so. And Web3 wasn't people's vernacular yet, but we were describing this self-sovereign data custody back then without having the right language. Now we do. We can call it Web3. but the principle has not changed at all. But what I am super proud of is that, the mavericks, the out-of-the-box thinkers who are driving blockchain and Web3, they have done, all of us, the industry, but I say they because we are above the chain level so far. We've relied upon chain to evolve, but the industry has done a remarkable job in the last 7 years to move from concept to reality. And yes, it's been bumpy ride, and yes, it's been it's been quoted as all kinds of adjectives that are not friendly. But in the end, the mission to restore humanity, I think, is really the real mission of Web3 and blockchain industry. And we've been committed to that for a very long time. And I'm super proud to say that, yes, we are in the Web3 blockchain space. And it's so far away from when I first got into this space. I used to get calls from my CIOs and hospital executives and insurance executives like, what happened to you? You used to be one of us, right? Here you are doing this crazy stuff. And I said to them, this is important. This is not some crazy stuff. This is a shift towards patient and human control over things that are important. So I would say I'm super proud to be part of this industry. And there are ups and downs every day. There's crypto winters and crypto booms and all kinds of things go on. But in the end, what we all represent is a restoring rights and privacy and identity and sovereignty of human beings. I think that is a mission that must be done. And healthcare is a place where it's needed the most.
Well, we're all thankful that we have someone like you who's tackling this project in Solve.Care and the whole team at Solve.Care, because it's one of the core important ones, right? I can't emphasize this enough. There's a variety of use cases in the world. There's a variety of market opportunities in the world, but this is like a core pillar of stuff, of society, right? This is a core pillar of society. So it's one of the big problems, and we can't wait to help you tackle it. We can't emphasize enough how much we like the approach on the whole thing. And healthcare is complicated. The way you explained it said, hey, look, this is why it's messed up, and let's create something that's a bit more of an alternative. And I think the network point of view with the wallet and the patient at the heart of it is the right approach. So we're thrilled to have you on here today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody who's been listening. And you guys do great work at the Crypto Academy. So we look forward to partnering with you, and to all of you, the rest of you. It does take somebody like you to say, enough, we're going to change the world for the better, and we might just have the right tool for you to do that. So come talk to us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Don't forget, everybody, check them out, Solve.Care. And we can't wait to get our AMA sessions going back more again as the spring rolls into the summer. There's a lot going on in the digital asset space. So thank you very much. Don't forget to follow us at US Crypto Academy on X. You can follow me, if you dare, at Jahon Jamali. But thank you very much, Pradeep. Thank you to the team at Solve.Care. Thank you to the ACA team in the background that helped put on the AMA show today. And thank you very much to our viewers. We can't wait to see you again.
Thank you, Jahon. Thank you, everyone.